Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason. I'm speaking to you here in my basement in the great state of Kansas. And today I'm doing another entry in my top 100 favorite albums. Today I'm doing number 80. Number 80 on my list is Buffalo Springfield by Buffalo Springfield. Came out in 1966. It's their first studio album. I already did one other Buffalo Springfield album called Buffalo Springfield Again, which is their second album. They're not the most creative in naming their albums, evidently, just Buffalo Springfield Again. They did only 3 albums, actually, before they broke up as a band. And Buffalo Springfield Again I had at like number 99, 98, I think, so it was pretty low on my list. But still, I thought it was a pretty good album. This one I think is a far superior album, actually, to the second one. This is the first one. There's 12 songs on here. There's one really huge hit. If you know anything about Buffalo Springfield, you probably know the one song that they have that, one of the biggest hits of the 60s, For What It's Worth, written and sung by Stephen Stills. A very iconic song of the 60s, used a lot in protest type singing. Anytime they want to talk about protesting, this is one of the songs that they usually play. It's a song you probably heard a million times, just not on the radio, but in movies and commercials. I even heard Stephen Stills play this at the Democratic National Convention this last election cycle. Anyway, so it's a favorite of everybody's. It's one of the most, like I said, when I think of 60s rock music at this time, this is one of the songs I think about as one of the top ones. Stephen Stills, it's basically all the songs are written by either Stephen Stills or Neil Young. Stephen Stills writes 7 of the songs. Neil Young writes 5 of the songs on here. Richie Foray, who writes some songs on the next album, doesn't write any on this one, but he can write some songs, but just for this first one, he didn't get any on. And there's basically 3 lead singers: Stephen Stills, Neil Young, and Richie Foray. What's interesting about Neil Young, I said he wrote 5 of the songs on here, but he only lead sings 2 of the songs. The other 3 songs that he wrote were led by Richie Foray. This, from what I've read and kind of heard, is that they kind of decided that Neil Young had the weakest vocals out of the 3, and so they wanted Stills and Richie Foray to do most of the singing, and they only gave Neil Young 2 songs on here to sing, which is interesting because Neil Young's gone on to be one of the greatest singer-songwriters of all time. Lots of hit albums on his solo work where he's singing everything. And of course, I don't know, I don't get it. I really like his voice. I like a lot of solo work, and some of the songs that he sings on here and Buffalo Springfield Again are my favorite songs. Are the ones that he sings. He has a very unique, high-pitched voice that I really enjoy, and he can sing both, more of the softer songs, and he can also sing rock songs really well. Obviously, Neil Young is a great guitar player. Stephen Stills is a great guitar player. I mean, you're talking about 2 of the great guitar players of this time. Which is pretty amazing to have that much talent on one group. And then you got 3 lead singers. Rich Foray does some rhythm guitar on here, and so it's really talented band. I think they could have been bigger if they would have stayed together, but they didn't stay together that long. As I talked about, like in Buffalo Springfield Again, Neil Young was a little bitter about the fact that he only sang 2 of his songs that he wrote, and that they wouldn't let him sing all his songs. After kind of this album, they came out with the next album. One of the bigger hits, or not really a big hit, but songs that they promoted was Mr. Soul, a really good rock song off of Buffalo Springfield Again. And it was kind of, Neil Young sang more songs on that album because I think he was like, hey, I need to sing my songs, I'm just as good at this. And I think he got more confident in pushing his voice forward. He basically then just quits the band after the second album. So I think he was pretty upset with the fact that they demoted him so much as far as singing the songs that he wrote. Of course, then he went off and have a really good solo career, best solo career out of course anybody out of here on this band. Obviously, him and Stills also joined in with the Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young group and formed one of the great supergroups also. But yeah, this is a really solid album. I call this about folk rock era album, I would say. Nothing very hard. I would say very more soft rock type of, but it's my I'm huge on folk rock. That's one of my favorite eras of music. Anyway, so I really love albums like this, and I think it's very solid. A lot of great solid songs. Obviously, For What It's Worth, huge song. But everything from like Sit Down, I Think I Love You, Do I Have to Come Right Out and Say It, Leave, Out of My Mind, Go and Say Goodbye. All solid songs on this. I really quite enjoyed all of them. None of them are very long. They're very catchy songs. I enjoyed quite a lot. As I said, it has 3 singles coming off here, but only one single really did anything. For What It's Worth went number 7 in the U.S., which I'm surprised it didn't go number 1. I would think that'd be a number 1 type song. Burned, which was a Neil Young song that he wrote, and I think he lead sings on it, didn't chart at all. And then nowadays, Clancy Can't Even Sing went 110, so it didn't even crack the top 100. So it's not really, this album's not really full of like big hits, I would say, but to me it's solid throughout and has one huge hit on it. Overall, it went number 80 in the U.S., the album did, so it didn't do great, only 80. Cracked the top 100, but didn't go real far, which I'm kind of surprised it didn't do better than it did, because they were a pretty popular band at the time. When they got the record, they were, of course, playing at clubs and stuff in California, I believe, and there's a big, folk and folk rock explosion there around this time, 65, 66. Basically when the Beatles came out and the British Invasion came out, the folk rock era also started around that. So around 65, 66, a lot of folk rock music. A lot of the great albums came out at that time, and they were a very popular group. Did very well in the club scene, and of course they got this record deal. Did this. One of the most interesting things I found about this album, when it first was released, the song For What It's Worth wasn't on the album. It was a single, but they had another song on the album instead of that one. So originally didn't even have that song, their biggest hit of all time. They, of course, For What It's Worth, ended up doing pretty well in the charts. So then they quickly reissued the album and put For What It's Worth as the first song on the album. So of course I'm listening to this version with that song in it, because if this song wasn't in it, it would definitely not be as good. I mean, still a solid album, but that definitely makes this album a lot better with such a great song, such an iconic song. Anyway, so that's interesting that they had there's almost like 2 versions of this album, one without and one with, but I think everybody listens to the one with it because it's obviously a lot better with that song, For What It's Worth. So I go to my top 3 songs. Number 3 is Do I Have to Come Right Out and Say It? Kind of long title. Written by Neil Young, sang by Richie Foray. Really good, solid, catchy love song. Really good love song. And I really enjoy it. Really catchy. Some good harmonies in there. This is one I never heard of before that I listen to quite often now after I've heard this. Really like it. Number 2 is Out of My Mind, which is a Neil Young written song, who also lead sings on it, one of the 2 that he lead sings on. This song is just so good. I mean, I really fell in love with the song. Never heard of it before until I was listening to this album this last year, and I was blown away. I mean, Neil Young, I really like Neil Young. He's one of my favorite artists. Like I said, I love his vocals actually and all that, and it's more of a softer song. It's more of almost a ballad type song, and I love his vocals on this song. Is so good. And it was a song that when I heard it, I was just like, man, this is one of the best songs I've never heard of before. And I played it so much over the year 2020 that at the end of the year, Spotify tells you what songs you listen to the most. What's your top 5 songs that you listen to the most over the year? Out of My Mind was number 1 on my list. It was a song that I listened to more than any other song in the year 2020, so which I didn't realize I listened to that much. But I was like, wow, I really listened to that song. I really liked it, and so I kind of, you can see how much I liked it. I listened to it so much, which happens when you first discover a really good song. You're just like, I gotta listen to this song over and over again, because I just can't get enough of it when you first hear it. But yeah, definitely check out Out of My Mind, an excellent Neil Young song if you like Neil Young. And then number 1, obviously, no surprise, For What It's Worth has to be number 1. In fact, I was kind of going back and forth between Out of My Mind and For What It's Worth for number 1. I like Out of My Mind so much, I almost want to put that number 1. Like I said, I probably listen because I just discovered it. I listened to it more, even though for what it's worth, it's a song I've heard my whole life and a song I've enjoyed my whole life. So it's one I don't listen to as much just because I'm so well aware of it and I know it so well. But it is an excellent song. I love that beginning with the drum beat. Boom, boom, like this it begins with this great drum beat, and then Neil Young's like this ringing guitar. It's so iconic. Once you listen to the first couple seconds, you know what song you're listening to, and it's so good. I just love that the sound of that guitar and the drum beats. And Steven Still's great. I think vocal work, chorus is so catchy. One of the all-time great choruses. You know, where everybody comes in together on the chorus. Yeah, and the backing vocals just amazing. Yeah, it's one of my favorite songs of this era, the mid '60s. So yeah, if you haven't heard that one, yeah, you probably have, but definitely one of their best, or is their best. So yeah, so that's my top three. Yeah, very solid album, number 80 on my list, Buffalo Springfield. So thank you for watching this and subscribing and liking, and just feel free to comment what you think about this album or what you think about the group Buffalo Springfield. I have two of their albums in my top 100. Probably nobody else has those two in their top 100, but this is my kind of music, 60s folk rock. And so thank you very much. I appreciate it.